What's up, everybody? Welcome to Punk Goes Podcast. My name is Mackenzie. This is Sean and Justin. Sean, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I am dating Mackenzie, and I live with Justin.
We live with Justin.
I live with Justin.
I live with you guys.
Well, that's kind of sad.
That's
And
just facts, dude.
it is true, though. I mean, really, we live with you because we probably wouldn't have gotten the house without your name, so technically.
Without Justin's money.
Anyways, I'm Sean. And I like to party.
What do you do, Sean, for a living?
I don't think that's important. I'm a video editor. I'm a musician. I'm a professional dirt bike rider. And I'm not a professional dirt bike rider.
Your screen shut off.
What you want from me?
All right, she was right. The battery's
It'll be fine.
It's still recording.
Only 40? Okay.
Starting over.
All right, take 3.
Let us introduce us. Just say your name. Then
Okay. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Punk Goes Podcast. My name is Mackenzie.
I'm Sean.
I'm Justin.
And this is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. Have my own podcast. And I kind of looped these two
We
in
have been
with
talking
me.
about it.
We have been
for a
talking
little
about
while.
it since the beginning of quarantine, I think.
Yep.
But we just never did it until now. So here we are.
To be honest, we couldn't figure out a good name.
Yeah,
We've
it
thrown out a
honestly took us a long time.
It did take you guys a while.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
We had some pretty good ones, but some pretty bad ones too.
Yep. And we pretty much told our roommate Justin that he had to be in it last night.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we're a trio.
But here.
here we go.
Here
So-
we go. Let's go.
But to be fair, we all go to concerts together.
Mm-hmm.
We can't go to concerts right now because of COVID.
Rip.
But I would say that kind of what brings us all together for this podcast is for the love of music and all things
Yeah.
punk.
If any of you avid pop punk listeners out there kind of get the joke of the podcast name, the very infamous Punk Goes Pop albums is where we kind of got the idea.
Yep.
And kind of looping in just like the fact that all three of us are from the Midwest. We're all emo kids. Kind of wrapping that whole world up into one.
Yeah. And before we continue, because I'll forget this thought, if people do watch this, comment or send us new music. We're always looking for new music, and if we like it, we'll give the band a shout out on here or
We'll listen to
talk
it.
about their music and give it a rating.
Yeah, and always send us ideas to talk about, things to talk about. But
that
speaking
our-
of music, MGK's album, big controversy in the pop punk space.
I know we're a little late on this train. It's been out for a little while now, but we just started this, and we thought it'd be fair to talk about that. I don't know if he actually, his rap career was ruined by Eminem. That's speculation, but I feel like he could no longer rap because Eminem killed him, and pop punk MGK was reborn.
But Justin, you've never liked MGK, right?
No. Yeah, I just don't. I've never really.
I wasn't a fan of his rap.
I never listened to his rap music.
I wasn't a fan, and then the whole him and Eminem beef thing happened.
Yeah, I'm on Eminem
And
side.
I was like, Eminem all day,
All
son,
day.
all
He can
day.
You know, there's a few TikTokers right now trying to get Eminem canceled.
Yes.
Yeah,
But
well,
I mean,
yeah, they picked the Rihanna song as this song is too much.
I don't know. I just feel like we were
Listen to
talking
this
the other
whole-
day, Sean. It's
Yeah.
like
Listen to this
Eminem's
whole-
gonna cancel himself. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
he's done that. Like,
He has said the worst things you could ever put in a rap song.
Yeah.
Right.
So, find something else, TikTokers.
Speaking of canceling, do we want to talk about Dr. Seuss?
I don't really know much of what's going on.
Do you
but
know much?
yeah,
I do.
Yeah,
Do you know what's going on?
yeah.
Go
His
for it.
foundation, right, is they're basically saying that they're not going to produce or print.
Yeah.
Like six.
Yeah, so
6 books.
They did an internal review, and after like going through everything, and people know that there's some very controversial images in some older Dr. Seuss books.
Mm-hmm.
including the N-word, using like very racist imagery of.
I hate the word ninja. For real. Continue on.
But anyways, they decided they were going to pull those 6 books that they thought were very inappropriate for kids to be reading and learning about. But somebody created a meme that went viral with a picture of the Cat in the Hat. And all these crazy people were like, oh, they're canceling all of Dr. Seuss. Like, so people think that they're pulling Dr. Seuss from all the shelves.
Yeah, no, that's not the thing. It's like titles that like I haven't even heard of.
Yeah.
Like, Green Eggs and Ham is fine.
Yeah. It's not going anywhere.
I think the only one I knew of was the Mulberry Street one. What happened on Mulberry Street or something like that.
Yeah.
I had that book when I was a kid, but I don't have it anymore.
I think that's more of like the illustrations.
It's all illustrations.
In the book,
yeah.
I was never really a big Dr. Seuss fan.
Me either. I was a Shel Silverstein fan.
Yeah.
My mom and I read Shel Silverstein together.
My parents weren't big readers, so
That's
I grew up on rock and roll, baby.
All right.
I guess.
Overall, cancel the guy.
But also, I saw a lot of people comparing the cancellation of Dr. Seuss to WAP. They're like, oh, so Dr. Seuss isn't inappropriate,
I saw that too.
but Cardi B and WAP is not. Well, no, it's not inappropriate. But I'm a girl, so I have a different opinion on that kind of stuff.
I mean, do I think that my 5-year-old niece should be listening to Wet Ass Pussy by Cardi B? Maybe not quite yet.
Right, but that's your discretion as a parent.
Right, if I was her parent, I would obviously not, let my 5-year-old listen to it. And
we don't have kids.
Right, we don't have kids. But my niece, whatever. But to compare it to Dr. Seuss, I don't think it's in the same vein whatsoever.
Right, the whole concept of them, people thinking that Dr. Seuss's own franchise. And by the way, nobody in his immediate family is alive to be inheriting this money. So it's not affecting anyone.
Well, and it's also, I mean, it's not a surprise. The dude he was born and grew up in those times.
Yeah,
a ton of people were blatantly racist.
Yeah.
Because that's just what the culture was.
And those books were written in that time.
That's how they were raised.
Yeah.
At that time, he thought that was okay with how he was being. If he was still alive today and reflected back on everything that he wrote, I'm sure he would have a different perspective on it. Maybe not, but we've talked about that before. How that's a big thing with the older generation and them not realizing like the way they say things or handle things are wrong today.
Yeah.
But weren't wrong then because that's how it was.
But it's very hard for them to kind of
adjust,
jump out of that,
or admit, okay, we were wrong.
Yeah.
How can we? But and instead of admitting we were wrong, how can we move forward and adjust? It's we're not wrong. We're not changing. You guys are all snowflakes.
Yeah. Well, and there's a ton of different layers there because that's like self-reflection, admitting that you're wrong. Having and then there's like having the internal shame that you have to face that like
for sure
it was wrong, and like me saying that it was wrong admits that it was wrong,
right?
All that kind of stuff. So
for sure,
what sucks for me is that like for my outlook is that people are comparing to the cancellation and like the inappropriateness like comparatively to WAP because we're now entering a time where women in music are becoming more confident in using what like terms and lyrics and stuff as men do in the same genre instead of playing it safe. Do you understand? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Nicki Minaj was like one of the first women to like really come out and do something like that.
Even if you try to take it back to Madonna, like a virgin, that was that was graphic for its time.
For that, yeah,
for sure,
yep.
For sure.
All right, so the talk of the hour is
and this episode is brought to you by nothing. Because we have no sponsors. Back to you, Mackenzie.
Thanks, Sean. We watched a documentary this weekend. We binged it. We made Justin binge it so we could talk about it.
So good.
So good. It's called Murder Among the Mormons. It's on Netflix. It came out, like a week ago?
Is it that new?
Yeah.
Brand new.
Oh, shit.
Just came out. So kind of like a little backstory on it. There's this man, Mark Hoffman, who throughout his life would find these documents, these artifacts and religious documents, and he became a document dealer.
And he was born into a Mormon
born into a Mormon church, practiced the Mormon what's the word? I have no idea what it's called.
Yeah.
The Mormon religion.
Yeah, right.
Whatever the correct term is, but
Latter-day Saints? Is that what you guys are? No,
that's what the church is called. Like when you practice Catholicism.
Isn't the Mormon Church isn't it called the Latter-day Saints?
Yeah.
You know what? We might have to fact check that.
We're gonna have to
fact check.
I
think
you're
right,
right,
Justin, because they brought it up.
But I thought that was the name of the
Latter-day
church.
Saints a bunch. I think that is the Mormon religion, is the Church of Latter-day Saints. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Maybe.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
But I'm not religious. Right. I have no fucking
I have no idea.
Right.
But anyway, so this man, Mark Hoffman, ends up finding a document that confirms the Mormon religion, how it was brought about, how this man named John Smith was brought by white angels to this rock where he then transcribed the Book of Mormon. So Mark Hoffman ended up finding this document. They verified it. That confirmed this. Fast forward, like 3 years later, he ends up finding another document called the White Salamander, which is a story that completely blows this out of the water, that blows the whole Mormon religion out the window. Not true. And they verify the document.
And to be clear, he found the White Salamander Letter, not the first one you were talking about.
He did in the book, in the Bible. When his wife ripped open the pages, that's where that was
the Salamander Letter.
I thought it was the John Smith one.
He didn't find the John Smith one. That's just the original.
No, he found the document that confirmed that was the story. It was a first-hand encounter, I thought.
Probably right.
Justin, do you remember?
I just remember seeing his wife was checking out the older Bible that he had bought, and then through some of those pages, there was something in there.
It was a document. I thought he found both of them.
I thought he found in that is the Salamander Letter, and then he found the next one in a bookstore in New York.
Yeah. Because that's where it was, the Order of the Free Man or something like that.
Right, and his Salamander Letter went against
the Mormon
story of whatever the dude's name was.
Yeah, and it was verified. The paper was verified, and the church was trying to cover it up.
Graded, that's what they call it, right?
Yeah.
The basis of the Salamander Letter was basically, the story was that the angel came to John Smith, and the Salamander Letter said no, it was not an angel. It was a white salamander came and led him to, which totally contradicted.
Yeah, and then people started thinking that Mormons practice witchcraft, like the whole religion was based off of witchcraft and wizardry, and
turning the church on its head, really.
Yeah,
when
really making people question the Mormon Church and like the credibility of the religion. So then, by the end of the first episode, this Mark Hoffman, somebody in his circle, and somebody else's wife in his circle end up getting blown up. One at the lady's house, the other one's at the financial advisor's workplace, and then Mark Hoffman's car blows up.
Yep.
And then the FBI starts to kind of realize that maybe this is a cover-up, which is what is crazy. Is where it gets really crazy.
First, they thought it was a church doing it all. I thought it was a church, to be honest with you.
I definitely thought it was the church at first.
Definitely them motherfuckers.
Well, yeah, because the second set of documents was the McCullen collection, and that was like, what, 100-page
something like that
document,
something like that.
Like that, right? And it was basically even more damning.
It was like rewriting
the
Mormon
Church,
right?
And the church was talking to the financial guy that you're talking about, Stephen, whatever, Fuller, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
whatever it was.
I'm bad with names, so that's probably not the right name at all. But they were the church was wanting to buy the second set of documents for $300,000 because they didn't want that. They had already been hurt enough by the Salamander Letter that they did not want that set to go out.
Yep.
So while I'm watching this, I'm thinking, a church has $300,000 to throw at documents,
and by the end of you're watching the documentary,
that's
what they would have done.
They would have come out. They would have thrown $300,000 at documents that they thought basically would just be so damning to their religion and their church, and would like
they were just gonna hide
they were just gonna hide it.
They were
like,
gonna
we can't let this get out.
And the thing with the Mormon church is that they get away with not letting anybody see their, like, the FBI doesn't have to see their documents, the government doesn't have to see their documents. So once they get those documents, the public could never see them again.
Careful on your banging of the table.
You're right.
But yeah, you're totally right on just like the full concept of the money behind it, and like that they were going to sweep it under the rug just so that they wouldn't ruin the religion, because that was the whole state, or like that whole area of Utah was the Mormon religion. Like that whole town thrived off of that.
Which I think you could have an hour conversation just based off of that one snippet.
Yeah.
Like that one snippet of information. I just remember sitting in my bed just being like, "You fucking kidding me?"
Yeah.
Like, that's insane.
No joke.
So then the documentary goes on, and you find out everything has been a fraud. That Mark Hoffman, when he was growing up, would plant these documents somewhere and take his, like, he would make create the documents, plant it, bring his friend back or a person to witness it, and re-find the document so that he would have a witness to the process.
And he started young with other stuff, like forging other stuff pretty much, and getting really good at being able to copy people's handwriting.
The first thing that he was like forging coins.
Yeah, like quarters and nickels.
And he sent it to the U.S. Treasury for confirmation. And they were like, "This is legit."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Cool."
I mean, if you're able to fool the FBI, I mean, he fooled the FBI with the Salamander Letter and the
Mormon Church.
No, I'm saying in the other one, the Freemason or whatever it was.
The Order of the Freeman.
The Order of the Freeman.
Yeah.
Which he made completely up, and in the documentary, you'll see he like
we're gonna have to duct tape your
completely-
hands.
I was digging nights.
I lost my train of thought.
Sean can't talk without his hands.
He completely fucking I forgot what I was gonna say.
Well, I want to talk about some of the documents that they found, because this is what's crazy to me after watching the documentary, is that any document that we've ever learned about in American history, if it's gone through his hands, there's a good chance it was fake.
Yeah, so that's what's... Yeah.
So he's forged things from George Washington, John Adams, John Quincy Adams, Daniel Boone, John Brown, Andrew Jackson, Mark Twain, Nathan Hale, John Hancock, Francis Scott Key, the man who wrote our Star Spangled Banner. So that whole thing could be made up. Abraham Lincoln, John Milton, Paul Revere, Miles Standish.
Star Spangled Banner's not made up because he didn't discover that. He just discovered
the writing, the paper that he wrote it on. Like that could be fake.
But what I'm saying is that Mark Hoffman didn't find that.
No, he made documents by Francis Scott Key.
Right.
So any document, even if it was the Star Spangled Banner where it was written on that piece of paper, it could be fake if Mark Hoffman handled it.
Right.
So anything and they've found signatures that he's redone by all of the Declaration of Independence signers. Like, this man's handwriting and skills to age a piece of paper is unreal.
That's what's nice that they touch on at the end of the documentary, is kind of like, this dude, you have to preface it with, this dude legitimately killed 2 people and then bombed himself.
Yeah.
Right.
To help, cover this up.
Yeah.
Because he was going to sell Oath of a Freeman for what, like $3 million?
$1.5 million.
Yeah, like $1.5 million.
And that was just that one. And he was going to sell the McClellan letters for even more. I think.
Yeah. Well, what you're talking about is the Oath of the Freeman is a piece of paper that is based on, I think it's American colonial history, but it's an oath from when they came to America, but from the British American colonies, and only 50 copies were made. So he was claiming that he had found one of those 50 copies in a random bookstore in New York.
Yeah, and it was like they had already confirmed that it was legit. But like,
sent it to the FBI to get graded.
It had like nuclear tests on it and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. Like, it was nuts. But like the fact that like, so you have to preface that like what he did was wrong.
Yeah.
But holy hell, was this guy talented?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me so much of
like-
National Treasure when he's redoing the Declaration of Independence. That's all I was thinking about.
Because it's not like he was forging these documents like it took him 3 months.
Yeah.
He was basically, he would hear somebody say, I wish I could find this.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
would go make it.
Yeah.
He was like, it was like a internet service. Like he was making these things to order.
And you
like
would
he was
think
just
that
pumping these things out.
You think that people catch on to that, you know? It's
Especially
like
his wife.
the
Yeah.
same guy is finding all of these things that people are telling him.
Well, and they
I
touched.
wish I could find that.
They touched on that. They were like, it was that industry was so like it was so common to not say what your source was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because of all of that. But like, I don't know. It's the pure talent to quickly look at somebody's handwriting and be able to copy it that quick.
Do we think the wife knew?
No.
I feel like she had to have known. You don't just like your husband just doesn't disappear for hours on end every single night in a room and you not know what's going on.
Different time back then, you know. She never got to go in that room, she said. Never.
I guess.
Yeah, she was just
That
fine.
was a time of just you're a housewife. You know, like you listen to your man. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's how it was then.
You're being really loud. We'll just wait for it to come back on. Anyways, but yeah, I still feel like somebody else should have caught Han. But what about his dealer? Like the one guy that talked really quietly? Like he had to have known.
During the documentary, every time he would start to get on a subject that he knew a lot about but wouldn't want to talk about it, he'd get really fidgety.
And emotional.
Yeah, so it's like you could tell that he knew something about it that he just didn't want to tell so he wouldn't get in trouble. Also, to set up the character of Mark Hoffman, he was an atheist in a Mormon family. So from the get-go of being a kid, he did not believe the faith of being a Mormon.
Which is what
And-
made this Salamander letter even
He had made it up.
much more achieving for him.
Yes.
Right. Because his entire point
And then you get people to
was
back
that
it.
he was an atheist, did not believe in this.
Yeah.
And thought it was an entire joke.
Yeah.
And then made up this entire thing, authenticated it, etc.
So-
And it flipped the church
Yeah.
upside
And
down.
basically proving that anything religious.
And
like,
I took this quote from the show, which I think is just so it wraps the show up pretty well, but like with religion, politics, pretty much anything, he was quoted to say it's not so much about what is genuine and what isn't, but it's about what people believe is genuine.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, damn.
Well,
like
that
true.
that kind of like brings up that documentary we watched on forged art. There was that huge art scheme where it was like these people were painting famous artists but finding new paintings. So there was this guy that could mimic the style of someone and then they would go on and sell it, and they were like, we really believe this, but that this was real, but it was more on the fact that they sold it so well that it wasn't that person's work.
The people that were painting it were like really good painters from Japan that were super talented, but they couldn't make their own unique art. So they had moved to the States in hopes to find success in it. Didn't. Became pretty much just a copying business where they copied, like they'd hold up papers, like memorize the stroke, like somehow nailed the strokes, and then would sell it as knockoff work but make money off of it.
Got you.
Somebody found on to that and started selling it as real paintings to this like number one art dealership.
Number one art studio.
causing them to shut down. 'cause of
Yeah,
it.
they had to shut down. I think they sold a painting there for like what, like $8 million or even more than that. Some of them were.
Yeah, just ridiculous.
Yeah, like
That's
big time collectors would come in and like it completely blew this like this place out of the like water. Like it was this whole thing, and they had to go to court. Like this couple like sued them. It was crazy. But that brings up the point where it's like, if you're good enough at telling a story, you can sell anything. Yeah. Like you can absolutely sell anything.
And that's why when he said that to the FBI who was questioning him or whatever, he was just kind of like that was my whole point. Yeah. To the church and everything. Was like, it doesn't matter if God is real or the church is real or whatever. Yeah. People think it is.
Yeah.
So it's like, if the U.S. Treasury thinks that the coin that I forged is real,
what else can I
then it's real.
Right.
Yeah. Then it is.
Then
yeah.
It is. Yeah. Literally, that's what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
Yeah, it's wild. It really makes you think.
It makes you wonder. Like that's what I've been thinking about like nonstop the last 24 hours is how many pieces of documents that we've learned about in school might not be real. Like might be like where it was. They're like, oh yeah, they found this document in the 80s that they had heard about from when our founding fathers came to America, but we don't know if it's like real. And then they ended up finding it, and then you learn about it in school, but it's actually a fake. Like think about how many pictures in our history books of documents might be fake. Like
that's
forgeries.
What's nuts. Yeah. And I just have to throw out there, we're talking about how this guy is so smart and stuff, but like he got caught because he wrote a check for $2. Yeah. This motherfucker.
All the planning.
You plan this entire thing. You go to get your whatever the hell it was, like the printing.
The screen.
He needed the screen printer.
The screen. This motherfucker was $2 short.
Yeah.
He paid everything in cash. We'll write the check for $2.
Hold on, let me write
and crosses out his last name, changes it to something else.
Yeah.
It's all good. Yeah. That's how he got caught.
He literally.
It was a simple
like they had nothing. And they had nothing. And they find this receipt randomly. Yes. And they're like, who is this?
Yep.
So they just track it down. And then all of a sudden, he forged them all.
He had also bought something from Colorado using the same name. So they had realized when they found that second receipt from the purchase in town, they're
that was his
alias. But what's so crazy is they even had evidence to say that he was forging. Yeah. And they still couldn't figure it out because they had the FBI re-look and they said, no, these are legit.
And that guy was like, you are wrong.
Yeah.
This is not legit.
Yeah, so he's a lawyer that works for the government, but his job is to argue against or opposite of whatever the case may be. Right. So like if you're trying to prove something's real, he's trying to prove it's fake. If you're trying to prove something's fake, he's trying to prove that it's real. It's just like, it's kind of like a checks and balances thing. And he was so good at his job that he found cracking. The fact that he like microscopically.
Yeah. Yep, sounds good to me.
Found cracking in the paint, the ink of it, and that made them go back through the documents and separate them out. That they found that it was like the only ones that he had handled were the ones that cracked.
Just jumping back to the $2 thing, it's like you took all this time to prepare these to sell and look like literally this dude in a fish aquarium had a piece of paper hooked up with a wire running into it, hooked up to a mason jar full of stuff.
Salt and water,
just to make the paper within a couple hours look like it was 100 years old. Mm. You can take the time to set that up and do it. You can't run to your car and grab $2 in change. You